First off, first page, if you will pull out your daily pages, you don't have to have each one, but have one of the days. It doesn't matter if it says Monday or not. I think we made a copy for you that you could actually print off the whole week, but we want you to look at one. If you want to look at today, that's fine on Tuesday and fill out that page, but whichever page you want. But if you'll have that in front of you, we're going to talk about those daily pages. So if you'll have that where you can see that, that'd be great. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video. And this video is from Franklin Covey, but it talks about the time matrix. And I want you to really take in what comes in that. I'm going to have a question afterwards of asking you, where do you get tied up the most? Which quadrant do you get tied up the most in after you watch the video? And give me a thumbs up if you all would, that you hear it okay once it gets started. I'll make sure my volume is good and loud on my phone or my computer. And here we go.
So how do we consistently put first things first to create the results we want in work and life? It starts with understanding the return on your time and energy, represented by the time matrix. The matrix has two axes. The vertical one is importance. The horizontal one is urgency. Together, they form 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is for things that are both important and urgent. They are things we care about and that must be done now. This is where we find crises, emergency meetings, last-minute deadlines, pressing problems, and unforeseen events. We call this the quadrant of necessity. Time spent here is necessary, but you usually get a return that's equal to or less than the time and energy you spend. If you live here for long, you will burn out. Quadrant 3 is for things that are urgent, but that are not important. These are things that come at us. They're things that we feel like we need to act on because they clamor for our attention. But when we take a closer look, they turn out to be unimportant, low-value activities. This is where we find a lot of needless interruptions, unnecessary reports, and irrelevant meetings. It contains other people's minor issues and is often filled with unimportant email, tasks, phone calls, and so forth. We call this the quadrant of distraction, and it always generates a return that is less than the time and energy you spend. If you spend a lot of time here, you're likely to feel very busy, but ultimately ineffective and unfulfilled. Quadrant 4 is for things that are neither important nor urgent. We really shouldn't be here at all, but we often get so worn out spending time in quadrants 1 and 3 that we go here as a way to escape. This is a place where we shut off our brains and don't do anything of value. Here we find trivial work along with excessive television, gaming, internet surfing, gossip, and other time wasters. We call this the quadrant of waste. Time spent here is unnecessary and generates 0 return. If you spend a lot of time here, you're likely to feel lethargic, ineffective, and unfulfilled. Quadrant 2 is for things that are important, but not urgent. These are things that really matter to your results, but that won't happen unless you act on them. It's the quadrant of effectiveness because it's where you find the things that really make a difference and move you toward your mission, like proactive work, achieving important goals, creative thinking, planning and prevention, relationship building, learning and renewal, as well as true recreation. These things don't come at you. You have to decide to invest your time in quadrant 2. Time spent here always generates a return far greater, often exponentially greater, than the time and energy you put into it. To be highly effective, you need to consistently prevent the crises that consume your time and energy in quadrant 1, minimize the time you spend on the distractions of quadrant 3, eliminate entirely the time you spend in quadrant 4, and expand the amount of time you invest in quadrant 2. Working and living in quadrant 2 means that you're focused on the things that matter, that change the game, that have a significant impact on your results. It's a mindset that helps you determine which things are truly the first things that will generate significant value in your work and your life.
So that sets up our time matrix, because what happens is if we want to get to higher level priorities, we have to really think about it. And we're going to talk about these big three here in a moment. And I want to share with you, because the first thing is in the daily plan, they have the daily big three. And then they have other tasks that's in there. So you can't get to those daily big three if you've got all those quadrant 3 and 4 is causing problems. And if you have a lot of quadrant 1 happening, then it's about processes and procedures. Maybe you need to improve that. I always tell people it's a joke, but if a fire started, that's when you want quadrant 1. Otherwise, if you do enough planning and preparation in quadrant 2, you can eliminate most of those quadrant 1 activities. You'll always have some, but you can really eliminate the amount there. So Franklin Covey talks about this power of 3, and I want to share just a couple things with you, because basically we normally put, I told you I have this challenge myself, too many things on our to-do list or our task list. So it's about looking at what's the most important things, what's the priorities that's there. So the daily big three refers to the 3 most important tasks to be completed on any given day. Lower leverage tasks can be done too, but it's important to concentrate on your daily big three first. And then we're going to talk about next the weekly big three. And on those, it's the 3 most important tasks or projects that you have that you want to achieve this week in a given week. The weekly big three usually helps you progress towards your goals or a project that you have, but it also can include other major items that's there. And then we'll also talk about the quarterly big three. What's the 3 most important things in each quarter on a project or a goal that we're trying to accomplish that we want to implement? And these can come from those annual goals or projects that you have each time. So there's a really big push on this big three. So if you have your sheet in front of you, what I'm going to do now is share basically what's on here so you kind of know. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to answer them or jump in here and we'll talk about each one of them. So if you see up on the very top, you see it has this, you may not be able to see it, but weeks remaining in the quarter. It has each week and it has 13 there. So you can circle what week in the quarter it is. So if you want to kind of do a countdown, it says weeks remaining in the quarter right there on top. Then you'll see on this one, it's Monday that we have up there. So we're just going to say it's Monday today. And you look at your daily big three. So it's asking you to list the top 3 tasks that you need to accomplish today. And again, when you think task, that can be projects. It can be something that's there. I mean, my full focus class is in there today as one of those. That could be one of yours because you knew you were going to spend 2 hours today with us in this class. So the top one could be that full focus class. Tomorrow, when you fill this out, that could be there. The second one, what's the most important? Now, remember, when there's 3, doesn't mean you have to automatically fill 3 in. Maybe you have 2. Maybe you have 1. If you have an all staff meeting and it runs all day, why put 2 others on there? Because you're not going to get to them. So you may only have 1 that day, but you can have up to 3. So you write down the 3 most important tasks for that day. That's there. The next thing you'll do is that it has a task status. You see, reply to Jane, return to modem. So those are things that you want to accomplish. Like I'll tell you one of mine, we're going to tailgate this weekend because my son and daughter's homecoming up at Benedictine is this weekend and we're going up there. I need to order Lutz's chips. Important stuff, right? Well, if they don't get ordered, it is important stuff because I'll forget. So it's on my daily task today to make that call over to Lutz's so I can pick them up Friday afternoon and they're ready to go. That's personal. So I'm putting personal with the professional there. And again, you have to decide in your business, if you have that capability, that's the best way. But also there are some business things in there. I've got a reply. I need to send an email to a client about a proposal. That's in my daily task today. So what are some of those other things that I need to do? The challenge here is not to fill it from, I don't even know how many blanks they give you, probably up to 20 blanks. Don't put 20 down. What's the likelihood you'll get all 20? So the thing is what's the most important ones there? And we'll talk about where there's a place that you can put it after that. So on the very bottom now, if you look at it, I don't know if they show this or not. Let me see if they do here. Yeah, they do. So at the very bottom, they have done, waiting, delegate, defer, or delete. So you get done with the day, that's when you would use this. Of course, if it's one you complete, check that sucker off right away. That's an adrenaline rush. When you get something done, check mark it. There's known philosophy and strategy in psychology that when we check mark something, it gives us momentum. So you can check mark. But if you're waiting for someone to get back to you, or if you're delegating that item, who do you delegate it? Sometimes they say circle and put their initials in there of who you delegate it to. If you're deferring it, means you're moving it to another day, then you put the arrow. And the X is, that wasn't as important as I thought. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't have to take care of that now. That's your X. So that's a little legend at the bottom you use. Then up on the other side of it, it talks about rituals. And we haven't talked about those yet, but we will be tomorrow. So don't worry. But it has a place where morning ritual, workday startup ritual, workday shutdown ritual, evening ritual. And if you complete those, where you can put a check mark, you see right above that is where you put your date. So you put in there 10/25/22 or whatever the current date is. And then this calendar one, that's what I would say is optional. If you like having it wrote out, some of your big items that you know your meetings are coming up, of course you have this thing and it's on your calendar there. But if you want to make sure you don't miss something, you can put it here. If you want it on both, you can do that. That's kind of up to you at that point in time. But it does give you a calendar. If you're getting in a habit of something, it's good to write that in. Like if you were starting a morning ritual and you want to get up at 6 a.m. to start that, you might write that in because it helps register with the brain then that I want to complete that. So you write each one of those down. If you're happy using your calendar on your phone, you can just use that. This is one of those areas that you have to determine what's best for you. Sometimes I'll write my big meetings up there. I won't write everything, but I'll write my big meetings that I have because it reminds me the day before, okay, I need to be prepared for that. What do I need to do? So that's your daily page. And you see there's a page for each one of them there on each one of the areas that you have. And there's some note sections and where you mark those in the blocks each one of those areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple minutes. You can either do today or you can do tomorrow. You choose, but I want you to do your daily plan. I'm